going on, everybody? Haven't done a video for a while, so wanted to just get one out there. It's Saturday. Hopefully you're enjoying the weekend. Hopefully you had a decent trading week. I know things are pretty interesting, so just to switch it up a little bit, and I want to just kind of go over the month so far, kind of where I'm at with profit and loss, and then just talk a little bit about what I'm potentially what I'm looking at next week, because I think that there could be, some opportunities in tech and some other names, being that we've had, a pretty big pullback. So just to kind of go over, basic analysis, my opinion, right? Obviously, nobody knows where the market is going to go, but just kind of my opinion on, some of the things that may provide, good opportunities and, stuff like that. So the first week of July, obviously in the books, just want to kind of just quickly go over what's been going on. Obviously had the holiday on Tuesday, so there was no trading. But as far as the Monday through Friday, I made $453 gross, with commissions only being 27 bucks. So just trading small share size, and putting together some consistency. Had a couple big days in there, a couple small days. What I'm really trying to do is realize that with a small account, it's really foolish to think that you can make a substantial amount of money. So, ideally, really, I'm just, using the small account to be able to build the foundation to, one day down the road when I can get a PDT account and a much bigger account, then I can roll that into, trading a little bit bigger size, but just really being able to build the foundation and not necessarily worry about, going so big. I know some of the trades before is, my share size, I would go in like way too big because I was worried a little too much about how much money I was making and trying to make big numbers, then realizing that if I'm in this for the long haul, then you got to have a solid foundation, put together a lot of consistency, and then with time and a bigger account, you up the share size, and then the money will come later on. So um that's what I am going for. So as far as this week, it's been good. 453 bucks on a small account, very consistent. Overall, happy with the week and happy with the start of the month. I just kind of wanted to let everybody know where I'm at with that. And a good chunk of this came from Tesla. So on these days, I only traded, very small amount of shares. But I traded Tesla, and Tesla has been moving, right? I'm sure some people probably made a lot of money on Tesla. Being that my account is small, I only went 100 shares at a time, and I happened to clip off. I think it was net like 3 points overall, because I made 200 and then 134. So about $3.30 between the 2 days on those moves from Tesla. So that's that as far as the week goes. And then just to kind of quickly talk about some of the things that I think could be interesting for next week. I think obviously I'm probably not the only one. Tesla. Tesla looks super interesting. Obviously, this thing has been on an insane run, right? Finally had, pretty nasty pullback. Probably can even consider that a sell-off. As far as in the daily, looks kind of ugly. Held some support here, but, this has to hold, right? So what I'm looking at is kind of on a bigger time frame, on a 30-minute. Kind of the 310, 307 area, I think is going to be crucial. I think, have to hold that. Otherwise, if not, potentially, more downside on Tesla. I am leaning a little bit more towards the upside on this, and a big level that I could see coming into play is this 317. And, kind of my thought process is that if Tesla looks good. The market overall starts to look like it has, some strength coming back to it, and Tesla can push over that 317 area. I think that there could potentially, be that gap fill, right? So kind of right around that 326, 325 area, which is, the area of where this thing kind of went on its crazy run, and it broke out from, right? So, that's what I will be looking at. Kind of potential gap fill on Tesla up to the the 320s. And I'm also what I'm doing is I'm trying to use bigger time frames to be able to find bigger levels rather than strictly just using the daily. I know that I would before I'd look at the daily, right, and then I'd go to like a minute chart or a 2 minute chart, and it's hard to see the story. So I'm trying to go to bigger time frames. Facebook is an example. On the 30-minute, kind of been in a channel and hit its head on this 152. And once again, if the market shows strength, right? It's the market. Wind has to be at the back of all of these since they have taken a dip. But if it looks like there's some strength in the market, 152 has been a big level on a bunch of time frames. Was resistance, became support, hit its head against it, resistance, resistance, resistance. And eventually I feel like when things hit its head enough and when it can break, with wind at its back and sentiment lining up, Facebook could potentially be something that I will like over 152. Just obviously have to see how it trades. So I like this 152 level on Facebook, hence the green line. Nvidia. I like Nvidia, right? Nvidia obviously on the daily has pulled back pretty hard below some of the moving averages, but 140 was a big level that I saw, and it held 140 and then started to make a push back up. Now, obviously, this could just be a bear flag, so have to see the trading and obviously market strength and whatnot. But breaking this down on a bigger time frame, going to the 30-minute. Here's a lower high, a lower high, a lower high, numerous lower highs. Has hit its head on this 147.50 level. It's looking tight, right? It's coiled up. There, I think that Nvidia could potentially have, a nice trade, possibly up to kind of this, this previous resistance, right? So 152-ish. And so there could be a, some tradable void in there for next week if it starts to look strong. So, and then obviously, looking at 30-minute, this looks pretty good, right? Just in my opinion, this looks pretty good. It's tightening up, forming a wedge pattern. It's going to choose a direction. And, if this thing chooses the upside, I think that there is a nice trade in there. And BABA, obviously, BABA held this gap, right? Didn't fill the gap, held it. And, kind of similar pattern, right? Couple lower highs, lower high, and then now it's stuck in this channel. Obviously, we'll choose a direction, right? Probably expected some follow through after this big green bar, but had a couple inside days. So what I'll be looking for is here is a level that I have noticed on BABA where this thing has hit its head numerous times. This 143.15, kind of just the 143 whole number in general. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. 10 times. So I think that if BABA, the market shows strength next week, earnings are good on some of the big companies, especially financials. If BABA can get a push above kind of that 143, there I see some potential tradable void up to 145 and maybe even a push above highs. But BABA can tend to from what I have seen, it seems to be that BABA can have a lot of fake breakouts and then has pullbacks pretty hard. But I'll be watching this. I kind of like that 143. And then, RH. So obviously, if anybody watches the market at all, RH had this gap down on earnings and then has just gone absolutely insane. Went from a gap down to what was the low of that? That low was 41 and has gone straight up to almost 70. So, I do think that RH should pull back a bit and it should correct a bit. Doesn't mean that it will, but I will be interested to see on a bigger time frame how this thing holds up. Right? It broke, a broke trend, a short-term trend. And, 62 seems to be a decent level. So I will be interested to see if this thing can hold that. And if not, then, potentially some downside. And as far as areas that this thing could possibly go to, where the, the gap was created, 55-ish. And there's some tradable void in there. So there could possibly be a trade. Now, at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that any of this is going to happen or should happen. I'm just trying to break it down to have a little bit of a game plan because what I'm noticing is that, when it's not earnings season, have to have more of a game plan. When it's previously when it wasn't earnings season and I would trade gaps, the consistency would not be there because I feel like the follow through and the sentiment is not there. During earning season when, and I like the gap down and go. That's one of my favorite trades. But during earnings season when a company reports really, really, really bad news, the daily does not look good, the sentiment is there, and there's a lot of pre-market action, it tends to continue that down move more than it doesn't. And that's just because everything lines up. When it's not earnings season, I feel like, one thing that I got to work on is doing my homework a little bit more and trying to actually find trades, not just wake up, see gaps, trade gaps, trying to find, big macro levels on a lot of the bigger names. I'm finding that I like to trade the bigger names, the tech names, NVIDIA, a lot more nowadays. And this whole past week, that was all that I traded. I traded zero gaps, even though there were a couple in the automotive. I forgot exactly what they were. I think it was like Orly, and these that gap down and provided crazy opportunities on those days where they gap down and they basically just, died 25 points. I didn't even trade those. I traded NVIDIA a lot. I think I traded Tesla a few times. I think maybe I dabbled in BABA a little bit. So I was focusing on those names, and I found a lot more consistency there because I was trying, to find levels and be able to trade around them rather than just, I see a gap, let's trade a gap. I know that I've gotten myself into trouble with doing that, so I'm trying to be able to, stock trades a little bit more. And also, oh yeah, and then one other thing that I like in this, and then financials are reporting earnings. So if they look good, and and the market takes to it well, because sometimes things gap up and then they fade off hard, right? Because that's just the sentiment. If financials report decent earnings, and then I could just kind of watch price action and see how that works out. Look at this. There's a huge level here on GS, that 229, 230. Was previous support, bounced off it, broke through it, and then has now been resistance numerous times. This is the daily. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like 10, 11 times. Eventually, if that breaks through and sentiment lines up, I think that there could be a big move on GS. So I will be looking at that. It is more of an expensive stock, so the shares will be a lot less. But here was a nasty little fake out where this thing ripped above 229 and then hit its head into 230 and then sold off about 5 points from that. So trying to be patient with this and then just wait for that and then give it a shot and manage risk. So those are some of the names I'll be looking at. Tesla, interested to see which direction this chooses. Above 317, I think there could potentially be a gap fill in the 320s. If this thing breaks below, there's a lot of room to the downside. Just have to watch price action, and obviously don't want to chase this thing short because Tesla is a big mover. Facebook, possibly above that 152, and then obviously, previous high areas right around that 156, 157. We'll see how that trades. And then NVIDIA looking tight on the 30-minute kind of wedge pattern, chooses a direction up. I think that this maybe has a shot to 151, 152, and if it continues to hold, maybe we get another run on this thing. But got to see how that works out. I think that there also could be more potential downside on the video, so we'll obviously watch that trade. BABA getting tight in a tight channel here, hitting its head a bunch on that 143 level. We'll see if that can't break above that and potentially go to 145, maybe even higher if the market and the sentiment is lining up. And then RH, this thing has been on an insane run, so I think that a little bit more downside is healthy for this thing to be able to possibly consolidate and then make another move up, but at least correct a little bit. So as far as the 30-minute goes, that 62 level, and we'll see if that holds or if that breaks through and then potentially has a little bit more downside to maybe 55-ish, maybe even a little bit lower before it makes this next leg up. So that's what I'll be looking at. Excuse the dogs barking, but so that is it for me. Have a good weekend, everybody. Happy Saturday, and I will try to get more videos out there. I know I haven't been on top of doing that, but I'm trying to focus on trading, try to focus on reselling and all of that. So trade safe, and I will see all you guys in the next video.